You are listening to Pharmacy, IT, and Me, your informatics pharmacist podcast. Hey everyone, this is Tony Dow, and welcome to another episode of Pharmacy, IT, and Me. As with every episode, we started this one saying that the intended audience for this episode are newcomers to pharmacy informatics. So today's episode, we're going to be going over, continuing our previous episode run about implementing a new system where we discuss visioning exercises and goal setting. But today's topic will start going into migration paths. So we'll introduce the concept of a migration path first, and then future episodes will go into more detail about what it is and, other things that are related to it. But first, just a few housekeeping items. As you already know, the first 100 episodes were consistently released at a frequency of about maybe 3 episodes per week. As much as I really want to continue that schedule, life gets in the way, and I really do not have time to dedicate to that specific release schedule. Moving forward, I will try my best to continue the 3 episodes per week if I can, but letting you know, there will be weeks where I may not reach 3 episodes and may have only 1 or 2 episodes, and I will still be trying my best to provide at least a consistent content on a weekly basis for you, but wanted to let you guys know ahead of time in case you notice a change in the episode releases. Alright, so let's get into migration paths. So once you already did your visioning exercise and readiness assessments, as well as defining goals for your organization, you should now have enough info to work with in determining your migration path. But what is a migration path? A migration path is a pathway that gives an overview of everything that's needed to implement a new system, whether it be applications, technology, operations, dependencies, limitations. It basically gives you a priority list mapped out in a structured format. An example of a migration path can include big headers like goals, applications, technology, and operational details. Under applications, there can be a timeline for financial, administrative, operational, and clinical implementations. Under technology, there can be discussion about databases, networks, and interfaces. And under operations, this usually consists of the people, policies, and processes. In essence, a migration path is structured like a strategic business plan. The example I gave didn't really go into details about the timeline, but you generally want to start off by stating what the current state is within those topics. And then you break down phases of implementation over time, with maybe specific dates or general timeframes. Under each of these phases, you discuss the same header topics of what you want to achieve, and your migration path is your general pathway towards a successful implementation. There are a few things that you'll need to consider though. One of the potential problems is that operational components may be overlooked and not included properly in the migration path. Be aware of that, and be aware that operational components are just as important as other components. Some of these things may include the readiness surveys, identifying champions, creating workflows or analyzing processes, and defining your metrics. Another thing to consider is you need to understand what components are dependent on what other components. You may be implementing a new system that appears to depend on having a different system, but there may not be an absolute dependency that would cause it to be a showstopper. Other times, there may be a true showstopper dependency where if you don't have that dependency, then you cannot move forward at all. And these definitions can get muddled in the migration path design, so it's important to iron these out in the beginning. Alright, so this was kind of a short episode, but the idea was to introduce you to what a migration pathway is, and migration path is, before we go into more detail. So I hope you learned something new today. Alright, if you guys like this episode, you can subscribe and rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your other favorite podcasting services. You can also follow us on social media on Twitter or Facebook at PharmacyITme, or Instagram at Pharmacy Informatics, or by emailing me at tony@pharmacyitme.com. And I also wanted to plug a great networking opportunity called Pharmacist Connect. If you are familiar with Microsoft Teams or Slack Workspace, think of Pharmacist Connect as a large vetted one through Slack Workspaces. I've met some great colleagues on it, and there's even an informatics space within it as well. You can find out more by visiting pharmacistconnect.com, which is PharmacistConnect.com. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of Pharmacy ITme. And remember, technology is the tool, patient care is the goal.